Hello and welcome to the National Quality Mark for SMSC and Fundamental British Values. My name is John Rees, and over the next 15 minutes or so I'll explain how to audit your school's provision for SMSC and British Values using our new audit tool. I was privileged to be part of the original team that wrote and launched the National Quality Mark for SMSC at the Houses of Parliament in 2016. In 2025 we brought together a team of subject specialists, educational consultants and trainers who have been working on a voluntary basis to develop this new quality mark in consultation with York University. We've already had some encouraging support from the Department of Education, and we're grateful to Lord Jim Knight, who's now taking this to Ofsted for their consideration. The new audit tool is available from the TES website, the TES website, where you can download a free sample of the first two sections or purchase the full version. As most people know, the first reference to spiritual, moral, social and cultural education was in the 1944 Education Act. 70 years later, in 2014, the Royal Society for Arts published Schools with Soul, which advocated for SMSC development of pupils to be central to the education system. And then in the autumn of 2025, Ofsted published their toolkit and confirmed SMSC as being an essential component of personal development, requiring schools to look beyond academic results to develop well-rounded, contributing citizens. Promoting pupils' SMSC development benefits the entire school community by creating a more positive and inclusive environment. It enables children to learn and to reflect on their beliefs and values, and so develop empathy, respect, and a strong sense of right and wrong. And in turn this reduces conflict and bullying and fosters a climate of physical and emotional safety, which is a benefit to everyone. Promoting fundamental British values enhances safeguarding by building pupils' resilience against radicalisation and extremism, and improves the ethos of the setting by creating a safe, inclusive environment based on mutual respect, and developing citizens by preparing children for the responsibilities of adult life in modern Britain. The National Quality Mark is designed to empower schools to elevate SMSC development and value-based learning for all our pupils. By focusing on the provision of SMSC, schools can not only enhance learning outcomes and long-term life successes for their pupils, but also support staff well-being. The self-evaluation tool that I'll explain in a couple of minutes supports school improvement and enables schools to confidently meet the expectations of inspection services. The Quality Mark has been designed for all schools within the English curriculum framework, and the Quality Mark is achieved through a detailed self-review tool which can then be externally verified by our specialist team to support you in nurturing well-rounded individuals who can thrive and flourish in every aspect of their lives. The Ofsted Toolkit of 2025 defines SMSC as a golden thread and supported by fundamental British values, both of which are probably linked to your school values. And so the audit can help you to evaluate the existing provision throughout every aspect of the curriculum and of course extracurricular activities. Experience tells us that almost inevitably, as the school, phase or department work their way through the audit, they're reminded of the huge amount of excellent work that they do around SMSC and fundamental British values, and this is a lovely way of capturing all the fabulous things that you do. The audit also helps to identify strengths and areas for development and plan for the future, to ensure that these crucial components of the curriculum become even more firmly embedded. And of course, this helps to describe and articulate SMSC and British values for Ofsted. So, as I just said, when you complete the SMSC and FBV audit, it contributes to evidence of achievement, and not just in the academic sense. It contributes to attendance and behaviour, curriculum and teaching, inclusion, leadership and governance, and of course, personal development. Inspectors evaluate how effectively the curriculum and the school ethos foster self-knowledge and reflection, understanding of right and wrong, social skills and community engagement, application of cultural diversity and, of course, fundamental British values. Janet Palmer, the former HMI with responsibility for SMSC, would publicly say, don't wait to be asked. If you've got something you're proud of, shove it up their nose. How far you take that advice is entirely up to you. But if your school has evidence from the audit of these essential topics, these things should be celebrated with staff, pupils, parents, and of course inspectors. Once you've downloaded the audit tool, it's important to clarify what you're auditing. And although the audit requires leadership, really it needs to be done by a team. This is not a job that can be accomplished by just one person. And it requires a whole school approach with curriculum and pastoral leads all contributing to the final document. We recommend ideally that time should be set aside through CPD on a twilight session or perhaps a training day to revisit your whole school's understanding of SMSC and British values before beginning the audit process. But this isn't compulsory, and if you do want help with CPD, please don't hesitate to get in touch. To complete the audit, you'll probably need to gather some key materials including the policy documents for SMSC and values, some schemes of learning or curriculum map. You'll want to focus on your PSHE or RSHE and citizenship plans, but also your assembly and pastoral programme if you have one. You'll need to think, as I say, about assemblies, pastoral support and provision for mental health. It's good to have a detailed overview of the enrichment or extracurricular provision as well, and behaviour policies or values or ethos statement, or in fact anything else you have around school or school values or character education. All of this ensures that the audit reflects what is planned and achieved rather than only those things we remember when we're under pressure. So as we've just seen, the review really needs to be a whole school task. But departments or phases can also review this during their departmental or planning or review time. And as I've said, the ideal time is to begin or perhaps to refresh your audit is probably best done immediately after you've had some SMSC or British Values training. Although there is a final document to be produced electronically, the audit should be reviewed and updated regularly to keep it live and meaningful. Some colleagues might find this relatively easy to do, for example, through the teaching of English. But dare I say it, SMSC and the promotion of British values should be pervading the whole of every aspect of the curriculum, including the teaching of maths and science, as well as, of course, every other curriculum area. If you prefer to look at the curriculum and the provision of SMSC and values as a phase, please do. The quality mark has been written to support educational settings from early years right through to post-16, and of course can be easily adapted for special schools and alternative provision. One of the things that has kept me engaged and fascinated by education for almost half a century is the range and depth of opportunities that great schools provide for children and young people. And so as we click our way through this list of extracurricular activities and provision, we can remind ourselves of the extraordinary provision that you make for all your pupils. All of these activities and other things can provide such a rich source of evidence for you to demonstrate the fabulous things you do with photos, minutes, posters and pupil voice quotations. As we know from the changes to relationships and sex and health education that become statutory in 2026, pupil voice is essential to adapting the curriculum and is powerful evidence towards the SMSC quality mark. You can ask pupils about where in school do they learn about respect, tolerance and democracy. What opportunities do they have to express their opinions and so develop a sense of agency? Where in school or any other activities related to school have you been able to manage your emotions, manage your relationships, or perhaps resolve conflict based on appropriate values? We need to ask teachers, where do you naturally embed SMSC or fundamental British values in your teaching or throughout your phase? And also to understand what CPD, guidance or support would help you and your colleagues provide these essential components even more effectively. So the audit process and the tools that we've provided to help schools store examples in one place. This becomes, if you like, your SMSC and British Values portfolio to showcase during inspections or your verification visit. And you might wish to collect samples, whether that's a list of clubs, visit to the pantomime, modern foreign language, or provision by visitors enhancing the curriculum, whether that's part of an academic topic, PSHE education, or careers-related learning. To effectively audit and evaluate a school's SMSC and values provision, the lead must gather diverse evidence from across the school. The evidence is crucial for assessing the effectiveness of SMSC initiatives and ensuring alignment with the Quality Mark's 8 educational standards. And once you've collected all your evidence and received verification, it holds good for 3 years, by which time we suspect you might want to review things again anyway, because schools continue to change and evolve. So the audit tool provides you with a list of statements within each of the 8 standards, and we've quantified these in terms of emerging, evolving, establishing and exemplary. You just need to read each statement and see which one is the best fit for your school, which is the best description. And so for each of the categories, we suggest some recommended reference points and some examples of the sort of evidence that you might like to collect. And for each category, there's a space on the electronic document where you can identify the supporting evidence. This only needs to be a note to briefly identify the evidence you're using to support that judgment, so that you can find it easily if the external verifier, or perhaps an inspector, were to ask for it. Here's another example which a department or phase might like to review as part of their ongoing school or self-improvement reflection. And of course, all of this can help to identify areas for development, which might be the fact, for example, that we're struggling to identify cultural development outside religious education or history. Democracy and the rule of law only seem to be taught in PSHE or citizenship. We might be struggling to find evidence for spiritual development, which actually can be everywhere in science, music, art, PE, and we might not be able to easily identify British values, for example, in lower key stage 3, or perhaps some of our provision is inconsistent. So before we finish, let's just review what your school needs to do to achieve verification for the National Quality Mark for SMSC and Fundamental British Values. There are just 4 steps. Step 1, explore and evaluate. So you can download and review a free sample of the first 2 sections of our our audit tool. This allows you, of course, to assess if our approach aligns with your school needs. Step 2, access the full resource. So you can purchase and download the complete management tool directly from the TES website. Third step is to conduct your audit. You can use the comprehensive audit tool to evaluate your school's current SMSC and Fundamental British Values provision. And step 4, contact our central team to connect you with a verifier. Once your audit is complete, we'll connect you with a specialist verifier who can guide you through the verification process. The National Quality Mark for SMSC and Fundamental British Values exists to support schools and share effective practice. Our new model has been carefully designed to be more accessible and cost-effective, both for schools and for the continued sustainability of the charitable work of the Quality Mark. The full version of the SMSC and Fundamental British Values audit tool is available for a one-off cost of just £30 via the TES website. If you'd like external verification, this is available at £499 plus travelling expenses, which is paid direct to the verifier. We would always aim to allocate a verifier as close to your school as possible from our national network. Our verifiers are all experienced, mostly self-employed consultants who invest a significant amount of time in preparation, the school visit itself, and the write-up and reflection afterwards. We can also offer a virtual verification via Zoom or Teams or Google, which is available at the same cost of £499. In addition, we can provide tailored support for CPD, either virtually or in person, for £195. And it's also important to note that, I think I said, once achieved, the quality mark is valid for 3 years. So if this sounds like the right option for your school, please do get in touch. We'd be delighted to work with you. Children starting school this year are likely to live into the 22nd century. We have no idea what that looks like, but they are going to need some sort of spiritual, moral, social and cultural compass, underpinned by values to stand any chance of living meaningful, engaging lives that contribute to their community and society. Our aim through the National Quality Mark is to promote children's learning and life chances, and we'd be delighted to develop this with you. Thank you.